Ladies and gentlemen, you were never meant to fit in. You were born to stand out. But somehow, somewhere along the way, you began to shrink yourself. You started comparing your voice to the voices of others, your journey to the paths that looked straighter, smoother, louder than your own. Maybe it was in school when you were told to stay quiet, follow the rules, not draw outside the lines. Maybe it was in your home where your dreams were met with silence instead of support. Or maybe it was in your own mind where doubt whispered that being different was dangerous. So you began to hide the parts of you that were bold. You softened your light, hoping it would make others more comfortable. You tried to blend in, hoping that would make you more accepted. But the truth is, when you try to blend in, you blur out the very essence of who you are. You see, the world never needed a copy of someone else. It needed your authenticity, your individuality, your scars, your soul. The very things you thought were flaws. The crooked smile, the accent, the tears you tried to hold back, the strange ideas no one understood. Those are your power. They are not accidents, they are not mistakes. They are the fingerprints of your uniqueness, left on your spirit by a universe that makes no duplicates. And yet, so many people spend their entire lives trying to erase their uniqueness, to paint themselves in neutral colors so they don't stand out too much, speak too loudly, feel too deeply. It takes courage to believe in yourself when no one else does. It takes courage to stand in a crowd and not mimic their rhythm. It takes even more courage to look in the mirror and say, "I am enough," when the world constantly tells you what you lack. But that courage, that quiet, trembling, unwavering belief, is the birthplace of all transformation. Because once you believe in yourself, truly, nothing and no one can take that power away. They may not understand you, they may reject you, but yourself. Belief makes you unshakable. You stop waiting for permission to shine. You stop apologizing for your dreams. You stop editing your story so others feel comfortable reading it. There is no perfect time, no perfect version of you that needs to exist before you start showing up as yourself. You don't need more degrees, more praise, more filters. What you need is to stop running from yourself, to stop telling yourself you'll believe once you've proven something. You don't prove your worth, you remember it. You remember that you were worthy from the moment you were born, that your existence alone is enough to claim space in this world. And once you remember that, you begin to stand a little taller, speak a little clearer, breathe a little deeper. You begin to carry yourself as someone who knows they belong. People will try to define you by their own limits. They will project their fear onto your dreams. They will call your confidence arrogance, your dreams too unrealistic, your passion too much. And if you're not rooted in who you are, you'll believe them. You'll start to water yourself down, thinking it's humility. But real humility is not shrinking. It's standing tall and knowing that your light does not dim anyone else's. In fact, your light can show others the way. And that begins the moment you stop seeking external validation and begin living as your whole self, even if it scares you. So many people are waiting to be chosen by an employer, a partner, society. But the most important choice you will ever make is to choose yourself, to say yes to your own voice, to say yes to your own path, even if you have to walk it alone, especially if you have to walk it alone. Because loneliness doesn't mean you're wrong. Sometimes it's just proof that you're ahead of your time. Believing in yourself means trusting your timing, your process, your pace. It means understanding that slow progress is still progress, that failure is not a dead end but a detour, and that the only person who needs to believe in your future is the one staring back at you in the mirror. And yes, there will be days when you don't feel strong, when you question everything, when the world feels too heavy and your own reflection feels like a stranger. But even then, especially then, remember that belief is not a constant flame. Sometimes it flickers, sometimes it hides under the ashes of your self-doubt, but it's still there and you can rebuild it. You can reignite it with every small act of courage, every time you show up when you don't feel ready, every time you speak when your voice trembles, every time you try again even after falling flat on your face. Those moments are where belief is born, not in perfection but in persistence. You don't need to know exactly where you're going to take the next step. You don't need to have all the answers. Believing in yourself doesn't mean you never doubt. It means you don't let doubt decide for you. It means you show up even when you're uncertain. You love yourself even when you're flawed. You fight for your vision even when it scares you. And slowly, the world begins to reflect back what you feel inside. Opportunities arise. People start listening. Doors open. But it starts with you. It starts with a choice. A quiet, radical, relentless choice to believe that your story is worthy, that your dreams matter, that you are capable of rising, even when everything around you says otherwise. Believing in yourself is not a one-time decision. It's a daily practice. It's a decision you make when you're tired, when you're discouraged, when everything is going wrong. It's a whisper in your soul that says, keep going. You were not born to give up on yourself. And no matter how many times you've fallen, how many people have doubted you, how many doors have slammed in your face, you get to rise again. You get to rebuild, not from where you broke, but from where you believed you could rise again. Because you are not your failures. You are not your past. You are the fire that kept burning even when the world tried to put it out. The world will try to mold you into what it finds acceptable. But your magic lies in the parts of you that refuse to be molded. Your strength lies in your decision to be whole in a world that profits from your self-doubt. And your power begins the day you realize that belief in yourself is not a luxury, it's a necessity. It is the root of every brave choice, every meaningful change, every beautiful life that has ever been created from nothing but faith. And that belief, it begins not in the applause of others, but in the quiet declaration, I am enough, I am ready, I will not hide who I am anymore. There's something powerful about the way we try to hide the things that hurt us. We cover the cracks with smiles, wrap silence around our wounds, and hope that if we pretend long enough, no one will see the parts of us that broke. But healing doesn't come from hiding. It doesn't come from pretending that we were never hurt. Healing begins when we acknowledge the pain, not with weakness, but with the strength it takes to say, yes, this happened to me, and I'm still here. So many people walk through life with invisible scars, the kind no one sees but everyone carries. The heartbreaks that shattered their trust, the losses that hollowed them out, the betrayals that made them question their worth. They move through the world with quiet strength, appearing calm on the outside, while inside they are still stitching themselves back together. And yet they keep going. That is what makes scars sacred. Not because they are pretty, but because they are proof that something tried to destroy you and failed. There is a kind of courage in survival that words can't fully capture. Because when you go through something painful, something that changes the way you see yourself, the way you love, the way you trust, you are not the same person afterward. You are forced to let go of who you were before, to learn how to live again with pieces missing, with a heart that doesn't beat the same. And somehow you do it, not perfectly, but honestly. You learn how to smile again, even if your eyes are still tired. You learn how to breathe through the memories, even when they show up uninvited. You learn how to stop apologizing for not being okay all the time. So many people have been taught to believe that pain is weakness, that crying is a failure, that talking about what broke you is something to be ashamed of. But hiding pain only gives it more power. When we deny our scars, we deny the very battles that made us brave. We deny the chapters of our story that shaped us into who we are. Every scar, emotional, physical, invisible, is a chapter in a book that speaks of resilience. It says, I went through something, I struggled, I fell. I didn't know if I'd get up again, but I did. And that is not shameful. That is extraordinary. The world will often try to tell you to cover your wounds, to move on, to get over it, to just be strong. But healing isn't a race, it's a process, and some days it's messy. Some days you'll feel like you're making progress, and other days the weight of what you've been through will make it hard to even get out of bed. That's okay. Progress isn't linear, it spirals, it pauses. It doubles back, but through it all your scars are not signs of weakness. They are signs of strength. They remind you of your ability to endure what once felt unbearable. You were never meant to come through pain unchanged. Life doesn't ask you to return to who you were before the storm. It asks you to rise as someone new, someone softer, wiser, braver. And when you start to see your scars not as shameful secrets, but as symbols of survival, something begins to shift. You stop hiding. You stop apologizing for your past. You stop needing to explain yourself to people who haven't walked in your shoes. You begin to own your story in its fullness, the light and the dark, the joy and the sorrow. There is nothing more human than being broken and still choosing to love, still choosing to trust, still choosing to wake up each day and try again. That takes strength most people will never see, and you don't need everyone to see it. You just need to recognize it in yourself, because there will be moments when you'll feel like you've gone backward, when old wounds open again, when old doubts resurface. In those moments, remember that healing is not about forgetting. It's about learning to carry your pain differently, to carry it with kindness instead of shame. People often say, "Don't let your past define you." But maybe it's okay if it does, just not in the way they mean. Let it define your depth. Let it define your compassion. Let it define the way you sit with others in their pain, because you've been there. Let it define the quiet strength in your voice, the way you never take joy for granted, the way you love with all your heart because you know how fragile life can be. Let your past shape you, but not limit you. Let it remind you of how far you've come, not how broken you once felt. The truth is, we don't talk enough about how healing hurts, how growth can be uncomfortable, how choosing to keep going, when quitting would be easier, is a daily battle. But your scars hold wisdom that can't be learned in comfort. They teach you to be gentle with yourself. They teach you to be patient when progress feels slow. They teach you that pain doesn't last forever, but the lessons it gives you will. You don't need to be perfect to be proud of how far you've come. You don't need to have it all figured out to honor your journey. The fact that you're still standing, still breathing, still showing up for life despite everything, that is worthy of celebration. There will be people who don't understand your pain, people who think you should be over it by now. Let them go. Surround yourself with people who honor your healing, who sit with you in your silence, who see your scars and don't flinch. Those are the people who remind you that your brokenness never made you less, it made you real. Sometimes the most beautiful parts of a person are the ones they tried hardest to hide, the cracks where the light got in. The stories they don't tell unless they feel safe, the moments when they let down their guard and show you the truth of who they are. Those moments are sacred, and your scars, they are not something to cover. They are part of that sacred truth. They show that you've lived, that you've felt, that you've lost and still chose to love again. They show that you've fought for your life, even on the days when you didn't feel like fighting. So if you ever look at your reflection and feel ashamed of the things you've been through, pause, breathe, and remember, your scars are not ugly. They are not wrong. They are not signs of weakness. They are stories of survival written in a language only the brave understand. And you are brave for carrying them, for not giving up, for choosing to live a life that is real and honest and raw. Because in the end, the people who inspire the most are not the ones who have never been hurt. They're the ones who were hurt deeply and still chose to rise. Failure is not something you prepare for. It's not something you put on your vision board or write down in your list of goals. It arrives uninvited, unannounced, like a storm that sweeps away everything you've carefully built. And in that moment, it doesn't feel like a stepping stone. It feels like an end. It feels like a verdict. It feels like the world looked at your effort, your sincerity, your heart, and still said, not enough. It is in those moments that many give up. They close the book, thinking the chapter was the end of the story. But failure is never the final chapter unless you stop writing. It is so easy to romanticize success, celebrate the victories, the applause, the rewards that come at the end of long journeys. But very few people talk about the countless attempts that came before that moment. The sleepless nights, the broken dreams, the tears that no one saw. People don't often tell you how many times they failed before they finally got it right. Because in a world that worships winning, failure is often treated like a stain, but that stain carries more wisdom than any trophy ever could. Failure teaches you what success never will. It strips away your ego. It shows you your blind spots. It teaches you patience, resilience, and humility. When you succeed, you celebrate. But when you fail, you grow, you evolve, you learn to try again, not from the same place, but from experience. You begin to understand that every misstep wasn't a waste. It was a lesson. A painful, necessary lesson that no book or mentor or speech could have ever truly prepared you for. There's a certain kind of courage required to keep trying after you've failed. To stand up with shaky hands and say, maybe this time will be different. That kind of courage doesn't come from inspiration. It comes from pain, from disappointment, from the place inside of you that still believes, despite the evidence, that your story isn't over. That you still have something left to give, and that is a powerful place to be. Not because it guarantees success, but because it shows that you are stronger than your setbacks. People will often judge you by your results. They will look at your failure and say, "She couldn't do it." They will whisper about your defeat, question your capabilities, maybe even walk away when your life isn't wrapped in success. But they don't see what it took for you to try in the first place. They don't see the internal battles you fought just to take that first step. And they won't understand the magnitude of your growth unless they've failed too. Because only those who have fallen and risen again can recognize the beauty in failure. You're not weak for failing. You're not incapable. You're human, and being human means you're going to get it wrong sometimes. It means you will try your best and still not get the outcome you hoped for. But every failure is evidence that you dared, that you stepped into the unknown, that you were brave enough to care deeply about something, that you risked your comfort in pursuit of something greater. And that is never something to be ashamed of. Sometimes failure is not the end, it's a redirection. A gentle nudge from life saying, this is not your path, but don't give up, there is another way. And though you may not see it in the moment, eventually, with time and reflection, you'll understand why it happened the way it did. Sometimes you lose things you thought you couldn't live without, only to find freedom. Sometimes doors close, only to push you toward ones you never knew existed. And sometimes what feels like breaking down is actually breaking open. You don't have to pretend that failure doesn't hurt. You don't have to smile through it. You're allowed to grieve, to feel the disappointment in your bones, but don't build a home in that pain. Don't unpack your dreams and stay there. Mourn the failure, but do not marry it. Do not let it define your worth, because you are not your mistakes. You are not your outcomes. You are not the times you fell short. You are the courage it took to try, the strength it took to show up. The fire that still burns, even when the winds of doubt try to extinguish it. There will be people who succeed faster than you, who seem to get it all right on the first try. Don't let that discourage you. Their journey is not yours. Their timing is not your timing. Life is not a race. It's a path, and everyone's path looks different. Some are straight, some are winding, and some require climbing mountains that others will never see. Just because it's taking you longer doesn't mean you're not on the right path. Sometimes the longer road builds the stronger traveler. And remember, the people who inspire the most are not the ones who have never failed. They're the ones who have failed publicly, painfully, and still chosen to keep going. They've faced rejection, ridicule, and regret, and still chosen to rise. They've let failure teach them, mold them, and humble them. And that humility becomes their strength. That strength becomes their light. That light becomes their legacy. Because in the end, people don't remember how many times you fell. They remember how you got back up. So if you're in a season of failure right now, don't lose heart. Don't let this moment convince you that you're unworthy. You are being shaped. You are being stretched. You are being prepared for something you can't yet see. Hold on, keep walking. Keep showing up for your dreams even when they don't show up for you yet. Because one day, this season will make sense. One day, you'll look back and thank the failure that felt like the end but became the beginning. The failure that rerouted you to something better, something more aligned, something you wouldn't have found had you succeeded the first time. You are not behind, you are not broken, you are becoming. And becoming is messy. It's full of detours, heartbreaks, and lessons that hurt more than they teach at first. But becoming is also beautiful, it's honest, it's brave, it's worth every fall. And with every failure, you are closer, not just to success, but to the kind of person who can hold it with grace. Failure will not destroy you if you let it refine you. Let it shape your perspective. Let it deepen your empathy. Let it build your character, because the most unshakable success comes from those who know what it's like to fall and rise, again and again, with grace, grit, and unrelenting hope. There comes a moment in everyone's life when they realize that not everyone who walks with them is meant to go the whole way. Some people are chapters, not the entire book. And learning to discern who is adding light to your path and who is dimming it is one of the most important steps in personal growth. The truth is, we are deeply shaped by the energy we keep around us. The voices we allow into our minds, the people we allow into our hearts, they matter more than we often realize. You can have the most beautiful dream, but if you're surrounded by doubt, fear, and criticism masked as advice, that dream begins to shrink. Growth is a fragile thing. In its early stages, it is tender and uncertain, like a sprout pushing through the soil. It needs sunlight, encouragement, nourishment. But if it's surrounded by weeds, by negativity, by constant discouragement, it struggles to grow. And people can be like that, either the sun that warms you or the shadow that stunts you. Not everyone in your life will cheer for you. Some will be threatened by your light. Some will be uncomfortable with your growth, especially if it means you no longer fit inside the version of you that they prefer. When you begin to believe in yourself, when you start to rise, when you find the courage to dream bigger, you'll notice who claps when you win, and who stays silent. And that silence speaks. Sometimes it's the loudest thing in the room. It says, "I liked you better when you were smaller, when you needed me, when you weren't growing into someone I no longer recognize." And it hurts, it truly does, because we want those we love to grow with us. We want them to be proud, but not everyone is ready for that. Some people are more comfortable with the version of you who stayed quiet, who didn't take risks, who made herself smaller so others could feel bigger. That's why surrounding yourself with people who fuel your growth is not a selfish act, it's a necessary one. You need people who see the fire in you and don't try to put it out. People who speak life into your dreams, not doubt. People who celebrate your wins without comparison and who sit with you in your losses without judgment. These people are rare, but when you find them, hold them close, because they will remind you of who you are when the world tries to make you forget. Sometimes the most dangerous thing is not the failure itself. It's being around people who convince you that failure defines you, that you should stop trying, that your dream is unrealistic, that people like you don't succeed. These words are poison dressed as concern, and if you hear them enough, you start to believe them. That's why your circle matters. Not everyone deserves access to your spirit. Not everyone gets to speak into your life. Protect your energy, protect your mind, protect your growth. You deserve friends who challenge you to rise, not ones who constantly pull you down under the weight of their own fears. You deserve people who believe in your potential even on the days you doubt it yourself. You deserve mentors who guide you, peers who walk with you, and companions who don't need to dim your light to shine. Your environment should nurture your spirit, not suffocate it. It takes courage to walk away from people who feel familiar but aren't healthy. To say goodbye to relationships that once made you feel safe, but now make you feel small. But you cannot grow if you're always shrinking. You cannot fly if you're surrounded by people who clip your wings every time you try to soar. Sometimes love means letting go, not out of bitterness, but out of honor for who you are becoming. And the beautiful thing is that once you start walking in alignment with your true self, you begin to attract people who are aligned with that version of you. People who aren't intimidated by your strength. People who don't need you to explain why you're changing because they're changing too. People who see your vision and say, "Let's build together." And when that happens, growth becomes exponential because you're no longer fighting alone. You're rising together. These are the people who call you after you've failed and remind you that your story isn't over, who remind you that one no doesn't define your worth, who hold space for your sadness without trying to fix you, and who hold you accountable to your highest self without shaming you for your missteps. They aren't perfect, and they don't expect you to be either. But they see you, truly see you, and that kind of connection is rare. Sometimes you'll find these people in the most unexpected places. A coworker who sees your potential, a teacher who sees your gift, a stranger who hears your story and is moved by your courage. And sometimes they're people you've known all along, quietly waiting for you to step into who you're meant to be. But you won't find them if you're constantly clinging to what's no longer aligned with you. Growth requires space. It requires release. You are allowed to outgrow people. That doesn't make you ungrateful. It means you are evolving. You are not who you were last year. You are not who you were yesterday. Every step forward creates a new version of you, and it's okay if some people don't recognize her. You didn't come this far to stay in spaces that ask you to shrink again. You didn't fight to heal just to be pulled back into dysfunction. You are allowed to choose peace over chaos, growth over comfort, light over loyalty to people who dim you. Choose people who are not just there for the highlight reel, but for the hard days. People who don't just tolerate your dreams, but celebrate them. Who don't just love you when you're easy to love, but stay when you're hard to understand. These people exist, and when you find them, they will remind you of your strength, your purpose, and your power. They will become mirrors, showing you the beauty you sometimes forget you carry. Life is too short to spend in circles that stunt your soul. Surround yourself with people who make you feel more alive, who challenge your thoughts but respect your heart, who don't compete with you but complete the vision with you, because your growth isn't just for you. It's for the people you will impact when you become everything you were meant to be. And that journey begins with choosing who gets to walk beside you. Dreams are beautiful. They are the pictures we paint in the quiet moments of our lives. They are the possibilities we whisper to ourselves when the world is too loud. They are the hope we hold onto when reality feels too heavy. But dreams, as beautiful as they are, will always remain dreams if they're not met with action, and not just random action, but consistent, disciplined action. Because it's not enough to want something. You must be willing to do what it takes again and again, even when it's boring, even when it's hard, even when no one is watching. Discipline isn't glamorous. It doesn't come with applause or validation. It often means saying no when everyone else is saying yes. It means waking up early, staying late, sacrificing comfort for commitment. It means doing the hard things not once, but repeatedly. It means staying loyal to your goals long after the mood you set them in has passed. And that's where most people stop. Not because they didn't have talent, not because they didn't have dreams, but because they waited for motivation, and when motivation faded, as it always does, they had nothing left to lean on. But discipline doesn't wait to feel good. It doesn't need the perfect mood or perfect conditions. It just shows up. It's the quiet force that says, "I will keep going, not because I feel like it, but because I made a promise to myself." And that promise is sacred. That promise is the seed from which greatness grows. You may not see the results immediately. You may not feel like you're making progress. But every time you choose discipline over distraction, you are building something within you, something strong, something unshakable. It's easy to romanticize success, to look at people who have made it and assume they got there because they were lucky or born gifted. But if you look deeper, you'll see the early mornings they never talked about, the sacrifices they never complained about, the countless times they wanted to quit but didn't, because what separated them wasn't a magical moment. It was 100 ordinary moments where they chose discipline, where they showed up even when it was hard, where they kept pushing forward, one step at a time. And the truth is, You won't always feel inspired. You won't always feel confident. You won't always feel like your efforts are making a difference. But that's where discipline becomes your strength. It holds you up when belief is low. It reminds you of your why when everything else tries to distract you. It whispers to you, you are not doing this for applause. You are doing this for who you are becoming. And that is worth every early morning, every tired evening, every moment of doubt. Discipline also teaches you to be patient. In a world that demands instant results, discipline invites you to slow down and trust the process. It tells you that growth is not always visible, but that doesn't mean it's not happening. Just like roots grow underground before a tree ever touches the sky, your discipline is forming the foundation for your future. It's shaping you, strengthening you, preparing you for what's ahead, and when the results finally come, and they will, it won't be a surprise, it will be the harvest of everything you sowed in silence. There will be days when you wonder if it's worth it, when you feel like giving up would be easier, when no one understands your sacrifices, when you feel unseen, unappreciated, and unsure. But remember this, discipline isn't about being perfect. It's about being consistent. It's not about never falling. It's about rising every time you do. Even if all you can give today is 50%, if you give it with your whole heart, that is enough. That is discipline. Showing up even when you don't feel your best because your dreams still matter, and let's not pretend it's easy. It's not. Discipline will challenge you. It will test your limits. It will force you to confront your excuses. It will make you uncomfortable. But in that discomfort lies transformation, because you don't grow when things are easy. You grow when you are stretched, when you're tired but still choose to write, to train, to study, to work, to build. That's where your future is being created. Not in the spotlight, but in the shadows where no one sees. People may not understand why you're so committed, why you say no to distractions, why you keep showing up day after day. But they don't need to understand. This journey is yours. And someday, when your results speak for themselves, they'll ask how you did it. And you'll know the answer wasn't magic or luck. It was discipline. The decision to keep going even when it was hard. The faith that every small step mattered, even when progress felt invisible. Discipline also builds self-respect. There is something powerful about knowing you can trust yourself. That when you set a goal, you'll follow through, that you're not at the mercy of your emotions, but anchored by your purpose. It changes how you see yourself. It shifts your identity from someone who tries to someone who follows through. From someone who hopes to someone who acts. That shift is everything. Because when you believe in your own consistency, you stop needing external validation. You become your own source of strength. And discipline doesn't just affect one area of your life. It spills over into everything. When you become disciplined in your habits, you become more grounded in your relationships, more focused in your work, more intentional with your time. It's not about becoming rigid, it's about becoming reliable. A person who does what they say they will do. That kind of person builds trust, not just with others, but with themselves. And from that trust, all confidence flows. So when you wake up tomorrow and the dream feels too far and your motivation is nowhere to be found, lean on discipline. Remind yourself that you don't have to feel ready. You just have to be willing to take one more step, to write one more page, to run one more mile, to study one more hour, to keep going when most people would quit. Because those small acts of discipline, done over and over, will eventually create results that speak louder than any doubt you ever had. There are moments in life when you will feel invisible. You will give your best, put your soul into something, and still no one will clap. No one will notice. No one will validate your effort. And in those quiet, lonely spaces, a voice within you may start to whisper, "What's the point?" That voice is not your truth. That voice is fear. That voice is doubt, trying to convince you that visibility is the only proof of value. But the truth is, progress is not always loud. Growth doesn't always come with applause, and success often begins in silence. Think of a seed buried deep in the soil. It doesn't bloom the day it's planted. It breaks, it bends, it changes silently in the dark. For weeks, maybe months, it looks like nothing is happening. But underground, in that unseen space, transformation is taking place. Roots are forming, strength is building. The same is true for you. When you commit to a goal, when you decide to become something more, your early progress may not be visible to the outside world. But that doesn't mean it isn't real. Some of the most powerful changes happen when no one is watching. Consistency is not glamorous. It's repetitive. It's quiet. It's doing the work day after day with no spotlight and no recognition. It's choosing discipline over distraction, purpose over comfort. It's showing up when you're tired, when you're discouraged, when results are slow. That's the kind of commitment most people don't talk about because it's hard to measure. It doesn't go viral, but it's the kind of commitment that changes lives. Because in those quiet moments, you're not just building skills or habits, you're building character. There will be times when you compare your journey to someone else's highlight reel and feel like you're falling behind. But progress is not a performance. It doesn't have to be public to be powerful. You don't need an audience to grow. You don't need likes or views to validate your effort. You just need to keep going. Because every small action you take, every choice to move forward, compounds over time. It builds momentum, it builds resilience, and one day, what was once invisible will become undeniable. It's easy to stay consistent when people are cheering for you, but real growth happens when you learn to cheer for yourself, when you stop waiting for approval and start giving yourself permission to grow at your own pace, when you become your own source of encouragement, your own reminder that your effort matters. That what you're doing, even if no one sees it, is meaningful, that your consistency is not wasted, even if it's unrecognized. There will be days when your work feels unnoticed, when your voice feels unheard, when your presence feels unimportant, but the absence of acknowledgement does not mean the absence of impact. You never know who's watching quietly, being inspired by your persistence. You never know how your quiet consistency might be the light someone else needs to see. Your story, even in its unseen chapters, holds value, and one day, when you've grown into the person you're becoming, your consistency will be the foundation that holds you strong. Success is not a moment. It's a series of moments stitched together by effort, by failure, by growth, by silence. The breakthrough people admire is often the result of years of quiet persistence. The overnight success they talk about was built over countless nights of unseen work. So if you're in a season where your progress feels small, where no one seems to notice what you're doing, keep going. You are not invisible to the future you are creating. Staying consistent without recognition is an act of deep self-respect. It's saying, I believe in myself enough to keep going, even if no one else claps. It's trusting that your journey is worth it, even if others don't understand it. It's understanding that your value is not tied to how many people see you, but to how true you are to your purpose. That is power, that is growth, that is strength beyond measure. People might not notice when you get up early to write your book, when you go to the gym alone, when you study late into the night, when you take another small step forward. But you notice, you feel the shift. You feel the progress, and that's what matters most. The change happening within you is worth every moment of effort. One day, the world will see it, but for now, let it be yours. Let your progress be sacred. Let it be the quiet revolution that reshapes your life from the inside out. Every great achievement has a backstory of invisible steps. Every strong person you admire once had days where no one noticed their effort, but they didn't stop. They didn't quit. They stayed consistent because they knew they were planting something that would bloom in time. You are planting those seeds right now. With every habit you keep, every promise you honor, every obstacle you face with courage, you are shaping a future that will one day speak for itself. So when the days are quiet, when progress is slow, when no one is watching, keep going. You don't need to be seen to be significant. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. What matters is that you keep showing up for yourself, that you keep doing the work, because your consistency, in all its quiet strength, is preparing you for something greater than you can imagine. And one day, when your moment comes, you'll look back and realize that the silence was never empty. It was full of growth, full of preparation, full of purpose.